Lynn Carpenter, Chief Executive of Thurrock Council. It's a year since we last spoke, so over the last 12 months, what would you pinpoint as your achievements?
Well, I never think of myself as achieving on my own. I think it's more about collective ownership, Michael, of all the things we're doing. I think for me, a number of things. You've been aware that we've recently, as a borough, launched something called Giving for Thurrock, which the CVS are launching. I was asked to chair that. And I think the collective impact that scheme is going to have for people in the borough who really need it is something that I'm really, really proud of. And being able to work with agencies like the CVS, our businesses, and everybody who has an ownership in Thurrock to do more for Thurrock people, because individually we do lots, but the collective impact we can have, I think, is going to be enormous. That, I suppose, leads into what the council did last Christmas in the Give a Gift at Christmas. That was phenomenal response for raising gifts for young people in foster care and who don't have a lot at Christmas. Again, the response from Thurrock people was great. We act as almost like a vehicle to make it happen, and it was down to the generosity of businesses and, again, the public in Thurrock. I think we're making some good progress as an organisation internally in the way that we operate. Doing a lot to find ways of being more effective as a council rather than just looking singularly at frontline services. You've heard me talk before, I'm really passionate about those services for local people. So we can use our expertise as a business to find commercial opportunities, do more with our assets and property, do things differently under the digital and ICT agenda. That will help us lead to some more efficiencies. And I think we're very, very close to beginning to physically deliver on ground on some of the big transformation growth projects. So, for example, you'll know we have the money for Gray's Underpass and the beginning of the transformation of the town centre here. We're a matter of months off from having the detailed planning application coming in to start groundworks in Purfleet. The master plan for Tilbury is coming forward in the next couple of months. All of those are taking quite a lot of time to bring to this point. But actually we're getting to the point where our residents will start to see a delivery and we'll start to see a difference in their homes and their communities.
I'm glad you mentioned Purfleet, because there was a bit of a doubt and a cloud hanging over that, which was played out in public. So you can say that's coming through the planning system.
Yeah, there should be an outline planning application in December, and that will start the process of phase one. There's still conversations happening with our joint venture partner about what exactly that looks like. And with any big multi-billion-pound scheme, getting the finite details is really, really important. Hopefully that will come forward in December. There's no reason to think it won't do. And then the permission for detailed works to start should be with us in February, which means shortly after that, residents in Purfleet should see something happening on the ground, which I think is really exciting.
So as we mentioned Purfleet, just when there are other developments or possible developments, say, across the water, I mean things like down in the Swanscombe Peninsula and possible Paramount, do you keep an eye on that? Are you kept in the loop at all, or do you have to find out for yourself?
No, there's pretty much a good conversation that happens between all of the chief execs. Certainly across the South Essex corridor here with the 6 of us that sit along here, but also with our partners on the other side of the Thames Gateway. The Paramount project, or whoever they end up partnering with, will be one of 4 nationally significant infrastructure projects which the council is involved in helping to determine before it goes into government in a year. So just to put that into scale, there's been only 64 NSIP projects since the government launched that in 2008. Thurrock are dealing with 4 in a year. So it just gives you a sense of the scale of opportunity that we are trying to manage as positively as we can on behalf of local people. And change is always difficult, Michael. If it's changes to infrastructure, it causes delays on the roads. If we're building, that causes people some consternation. But hopefully the kind of delivery of all of that is intended to make a difference to the quality of homes, opportunity for homes for local people, better places to live and to work, and all the things that you'd expect us to be delivering on as a council.
So those are the achievements, etc. What are your frustrations and ongoing frustrations, not just yourself, but as a chief executive of council, if any?
I think there's always frustrations, if we're being honest. I think that the scale and pace with which we work as an organisation, we can still do better on. I think we have a fantastic officer team here. we're trying to be less bureaucratic as an organisation. We're trying to make sure that people have decision making at the right level in the organisation, and all of that takes a little bit of time to get right. I think I'm slightly frustrated by the speed with which people are seeing us delivering on the ground. So planning takes a lot of time, and I don't mean like the planning authority, but planning out big schemes takes time. And I'm impatient like the next person. I'd like to be able to say to our residents, well, look, you can see it happening, and here it is. So I think that's key. We're getting better at things like the public realm, and we've improved street cleanliness and the environment. We haven't got all of that quite right yet for a number of different reasons. So I think there's still more to do on that. And I think I've said to you over the last couple of years that for me, the public realm and how people feel about the place of Thurrock is really, really important. And it remains a key priority. For instance, changing the fleet down at the depot, massively important. And we hope to have that in place by March. We've placed an order for £4 million plus of new vehicles. The crew down there are dealing with old vehicles which constantly break down. It doesn't help them, and it doesn't help the public have a good service. So that will make a step change in the next 6 months.
I know sometimes some of these questions may be more for the politicians, etc., but I'll ask them anyway regarding the clean it and cut it and fill it. Is it a bit... or do you feel sometimes damned if you do, damned if you don't as a council, in that you're cleaning, you're coming out with these stats, but it's a bit like when somebody buys a new suit and they see the other 4 suits and they think, oh, they all look a bit raggedy. You clean up one park and somebody says those other 4 parks are looking really scruffy, and everybody goes onto social media and go, yeah, that part of the council's doing. It feels like almost an impossible, a Sisyphean task, as they say.
I mean, it is, but rightly so. Because I don't think you can ever reach the point when you say that's good enough, because there's always more that we can do. We have to balance resources against what we want to deliver, and that's a constant challenge to us. But I don't think it's right that we shouldn't be mindful of the public's view. And you'll be aware we did the resident survey last year. We're going to repeat that again this year, and that feedback has really helped to focus on what the council's priorities are. The number one thing that residents said is important to them is the state of the roads and dealing with potholes, and we've spent the last year really trying to focus on that. Second thing is the cleanliness of the borough and some of the public realm. Again, we focused really hard on doing that, so we hope to see improvements, but there isn't a panacea. There isn't a point where you go, well, that's done, because you can still improve it further within the resources that we're trying to do. And there's been a lot of reprioritisation of resources back into those frontline services, rightly so. And I think they're beginning to have a positive impact, but you can never say it's good enough, because there's always more that we can do.
Do you think the council picked too many fights in public? I mean by that, I think over the last year or so I've seen a number of press releases, etc., and I think it's whether it's Anglian Water at Grays Beach Park, whether it's the highways H&E 13, Essex Police and the Manaway, members of the public wanting to ask questions, even I could put in, Basildon Hospital, I could go on, but it just feels a lot of it's being played out in public, and I wonder if, again, that might be for a politician, but I'm asking yourself, do you think that's the impression I've got, and I wonder how healthy that is?
I think the fact that people can have a view and can give us feedback is always positive. I think the world of social media is giving all organisations a challenge in how we respond effectively to it, and we have resources for doing that. You'll know yourself, we have a very small comms team here of 2 officers, trying to make sure we are doing the right thing all the time, communicating with the public, getting out the right messages about what's happening is a challenge. I think part of what we try to do is to be honest and transparent and say, well, this is what's happening. I think I've always been of the mind, and you'll have heard me say before, if we've made a mistake, then we need to accept responsibility for that and say we have, and there's been a couple of incidents over that the last year, and I think that's the right thing for us to do as an organisation. In terms of what goes out there, I think we try our best to be open and transparent and respond. A lot of what we put out there is in response to comments from our press colleagues. Right thing to do for you to hold us to challenge as well. So I think it's all about getting the balance right, and it's a difficult world in terms of what it's like, Facebook, social media, Twitter, and trying to manage it and keep on top of that and respond to it positively so people feel we're listening is really, really important.
I think I've had to give one example. I remember going back to the police and the Manaway and all that, and I sort of looked at it and thought, oh, the council really sort of being quite. One person's assertive might be, I thought, they're being very chippy towards the police, and I thought, well, that's a dangerous game to play.
Police are a really strong and important partner for the council, always have been, always will be. We agreed to differ on the approach that happened on that weekend. It was July 30th and 31st last year, I remember it very well. But what's come out of that as a challenge is a process that not only we're using with our police colleagues, but is being used across Essex. So actually, in terms of an outcome, to get the right things to happen where we have illegal activity in any part of the borough, has come to the right outcome in my view. So sometimes what we have to say may not be popular, but when you're doing it rightly on behalf of local residents who don't want to see that sort of thing down the manor-way, it's a difficult balance. I think that, you know, the comments the council put out at the time were reflective of what we were dealing with. The police have responded really well to the challenge over the weekend, and we've agreed a way forward that works for all now. So sometimes I think you do have to take responsibility to sometimes say the unpalatable, as long as you say it in a way which is appropriate. You know, you've got to be able to, as partners, have those open conversations. And I think actually, as I say, the way that we've all responded and we've all worked together, there's a task force that now sits across Essex, which the Police and Crime Commissioner leads, around illegal incursions of that nature, has led to a better outcome for all in Essex. So, you know, I think that's the right thing to happen.
Do you think there's still an element of being a chief executive of the council, and even though it's 2017, do you think there are times that you might be assertive and people will call, you know, if you're a man, you're being assertive; if you're a woman, you're being difficult? Do you think that world still exists? That's probably a question out with being just a chief executive. Do you think that world still exists?
I might be a little bit...
Because some people say that to me, that, you know, Lynn Carter's a very difficult woman. I think that nobody says, no, you know, do you not mean assertive?
I think it would be down to an individual to judge me how they find me. And I think we can all be interpreted in different ways. The job I have to do is very much about doing the best as I possibly can on behalf of all the residents of the borough, and that's not an easy job. And sometimes the things you have to say to get what our residents deserve may not be universally welcomed, but as long as it's said, my mum always used to say to me, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, that's important. The residents of the borough contribute to the running costs of this organisation, and the only reason I'm here is to do a job on their behalf. So if on occasion I am unapologetically challenging, which gets the right outcome, then I think that's right. I mean, my job is all about partnership. If I wasn't able to work with businesses and the CVS and to get my team to work together collaboratively to deliver, then I probably wouldn't still be here. You know, I'm very mindful of that.
I was waiting just a short time down at the front counter there, receptions at the front counter. Have you ever been down there? Have you worked down there? Because it's so many people, isn't there, coming in? I
sat down there for half a day a number of months ago because I wanted to understand the experience that people have coming into this building. I think we all recognise that actually it probably doesn't work as well as it should do for our customers and our residents. And one of the things that we'll work on at the moment is how can we change that in the interim to make that a much more welcoming place for people, where people can come in and if they have an easy query they can go and find that answer out on, you know, very good quality PCs, or there are floor walkers so people can go and talk to them. So yeah, I spent a lot of time downstairs. I think we have 8,000 people a month come into this building to visit us, and we take about 30,000 calls a month through our contact centre. So that says to me that either we're creating a requirement where we're not giving residents enough information to get what they want, or we're just not providing services in some areas as good as we could do. So we're working to try and address that.
When Jackie Doyle-Price put a press release out questioning the managerial ability of Thurrock Council, did she mean you? I think she meant you.
I don't know, you'd have to ask Jackie.
If she did mean you, well, you know, somebody questions the managerial ability of Man United, I think they mean Jose Mourinho. So if she did mean you, you know, would you take umbrage with that?
No, because I think when you take on any role in a leadership position, you have to be prepared to have feedback. I mean, you know, I've been in sport a long time, and if I've learned one thing, it's learned to be able to receive feedback in a positive way. We're all human beings, and you know, you go away and you reflect and say, oh, did I really mean that? Did I really cause the right impact there? I think as an organisation, one of the things that we're changing is in our capacity to deliver on place. And I think that might have been what Jackie was commenting on, but Jackie's not here, so I would leave her to comment on that. I'm in a role that people will have an opinion about, rightly so. And again, it's a bit like a manager of a football club. You can't please everybody all the time, but understanding the motivations that sit behind it is something that I'm really passionate about, and I really believe in what we're doing here collectively, and I really want to make a difference.
Do you think, even though Thurrock, as you can see, you can see Canary Wharf in the distance, do you think it still needs to go some way in all sorts of ways to be truly a 21st century borough looking forward to the middle of the 21st century? Do you think there's a lot of things still to do?
There is a lot of things already happening which are in the process of being delivered, and I think in many of those there will start to be a different scene about Thurrock. I think we've for a long time focused internally in the borough in getting things right here, probably less so in our position, certainly in the South Essex corridor, the wider LEP potentially, and having a voice in that way. And one of the pieces of work that we're looking to deliver on at the moment is what will the South Essex Thames Gateway corridor look like over the next 20, 30 years, and what's our role within that as Thurrock, and how do we make sure that any opportunities that come this way are also benefited on behalf of Thurrock people. So I think there's probably more that we can still do, and we're reconsidering how we do all of that. And there's that constant balance about where do we spend our time, getting things like the public realm right, or going off to talk about strategic visioning with others, and it's almost like both need to be happening, and you've got to find a way of joining them both up.
Do you ask other people for advice? We referenced off camera to the Section 151 officers, and do you go to other people and say, what do you think?
All the time. We have a view here. Sometimes I have to make a decision, and I will do, but the way the senior team operates, we also have a leadership group, lots of issues, policies, strategies will come through those groups before they go off to be agreed and through ONS and through council. One of the groups that I set up when I got here is called the Corporate Workforce Group, and it's very different to the way most councils do things. It's all frontline staff on there, from sort of junior management to the front line, and I sit with them once a month or once every 2 months depending on the agenda, and they feed back the things that are working for them as staff and things that aren't working. And actually, just to give you an example, future the civic offices, what we need to do to improve that, how well we're using the space, a lot of that has gone through that group first of all. So we're empowering people to have a voice. I talked a minute ago about the reception area downstairs. That's not just being done top down, that's being done and designed by the people who are down there and who are doing it all the time. So all of that process is really, really important. I'm held to account by General Services Committee, which are members of all three political parties in the borough, and as part of the appraisal process I ask and seek feedback on what I've done. Last year I think 15 different people within the organisation responded through the Director of HR. I didn't know who she was asking, and all that feedback went unkind of fettered or straight to the members for them to see. Likewise, I asked partners in the borough for their views. All of that went through. So I absolutely believe in being totally accountable.
Just a couple more questions. And do you enjoy council meetings?
Do I enjoy it? I think they're an insight into the political machinations of what's important to local people. And I say that because the members there very much represent their local residents. And I think they're interesting in that the debate helps us to understand what issues are really being felt out in the public domain. So I'm not sure enjoy, because my role is also to make sure I support the mayor and just some of the technical stuff around the meeting. I enjoy the debates that happen in there. So I suppose yes and no is the answer to that, in a funny sort of way.
But so finally, there's still so many challenges, and you look forward to this next 12 months. With I imagine a great deal of change. Was there one may have gone on before? Any in particular one you'd like to pinpoint over the next year?
I think seeing some spades in the ground and seeing a lot of the things that we've been talking about for some time actually happening and being delivered. So people really see some of that change. So you'll start to see in the not too distant future some of the boards which will show what's happening in Grays Town Centre, for an example. We're, as I say, a matter of months away, seeing something very exciting starting to happen in Purfleet and so on. So I think if we sit down in 12 months' time, I'll be physically pointing to some of that so people will be able to see it. And of course, ultimately, what we want to do is keep delivering those core services that we're responsible for the people who really need them.
Lynn Carpenter, thank you very much for your time.